Sure. So, for you who didn't put two and two together, VCU is our department's violent crimes unit. Our primary responsibility are gang related, drug related, and practically anything semi violent crimes related. So, for instance, shit goes down on Grove Street, VCU's either has a hand in it or knows about it. If someone's doing some major drug dealing, say in Mirror Park, VCU's looking into it. That type of stuff. We're also kind of the pseudo SWAT team for the department. At least I want to try to have them as the pseudo SWAT team. I know that's been passed around a few times between me and Speed. You guys want to throw in anything else that I may have missed?
No, that's pretty much it. I think for the whole pseudo SWAT team thing, keep in mind that this unit is going to be like 50% investigation, 50% SWAT stuff is the goal. So don't be thinking that you're going to be SWAT the whole time and you're going to be kicking down doors and whatnot. You got to do thorough investigations. We want to see some really good stuff out of you. We want to build a case first before we go knocking down a door. So you got to put in that effort first. Then you guys get to go have fun.
Awkward silence. Sorry. Yeah, Speed said investigation. I don't know if any of you really taken a look in the VCU section since you've been approved. We have files on different gangs that we know of. In there we have information we've gathered, asked other departments about, all that type of stuff. Check that regularly if you're in a gang-related area. If you don't know, it probably already explains it in the actual gang's files. Um, and that's changing regularly, so you'll see updates and stuff like that. Um, that's it for me, really. That's all I really thought I could bring to the table for this.
Yeah, so basically, um, like they explained, like you're if you're getting into intel, okay, you're figuring out what's going on, you're figuring out names, you're figuring out cars in the area, if they're transporting and selling drugs, or figuring out how much, what they're doing, who's doing it, where they're doing it at. Then once we have enough probable cause and enough evidence to start kicking in doors, and we'll do a search warrant, and that's when you guys will kick in or turn into the SWAT team, and we'll get other departments in, and we'll start serving warrants. As you guys know, sometimes I run undercover. Technically, I'm not in VCU, but I'm helping you guys out. But I go undercover every now and then and try to help out with getting some names, and we already have some stuff on the LS69. I got some more stuff coming up on the LS69. So, like Rusty said, check VCU probably daily before you start your shift. Figure out what's going on and all that. And if you guys come in contact with a would-be gang member, green gang, red gang, yellow gang, pink gang, I don't care what gang it is, get all their information. Name, phone number, vehicle description, license plate, where they generally stay at. You can ask them all those questions. They don't have to answer you, but you can ask them all those questions.
Oh, you want me to start? All right. Yeah. All right. So, um, I don't know. Speeds and bomb, speed and bombings. Yeah, there you go. Speeds. Speed and bombings. Gang experience, whatever. IRL, but pretty much the whole point of doing violent crimes and doing gang interdiction stuff like that. Really call it gang suppression. Um, you're really looking for a way to drive down crime. And the biggest thing is that we always say be qualitative, not quantitative. What that means, it can be very tough because all the higher ups see is they see the numbers. They want to see numbers, like they want to see like 20 guns, how many gangsters, arrests, pounds of drugs. Those are all important, but they really don't tell the entire story of what's going on. Basically, to be successful in gang suppression, it's really hard to measure. It doesn't happen the same day, it doesn't happen the same week. This stuff can take, months, years, and it's observed. And you can think of it as a marathon, not a sprint. Pretty much what you do, the best way to actually quantify it is to do it before and after. Intelligence, and that would be the ILP, intelligence led policing. And with that, you take your intelligence, that you do when you see, okay, well, where do they hang out? Who do they hang out with? How many people? Where do they go? What times are they there? Is there any vehicles? Is there all the stuff that you can see? Everything you see, put that in a box and you use that to effectively police the areas that the most violent. You want to go for the most, when we go after the most violent, we're not going to go after, a couple old guys that, deal marijuana here and there. We're going after the people that shoot at the cops, shoot at other gangs, exhibit violent tendencies, and we call them the futuristics of those gangs. What is the potential harm to the public? What is the, if this is all stuff like, like me being as a task force leader, I have to go through and I had to make an MOU, had some memorandum of basically a common understanding that if you're going to be, two types of task force, you have intra-agency and multi-jurisdictional. You have that. The memorandum of understanding is basically that each department says that, whatever they say they're going to do, they actually do it. That's their promise. But the biggest way to find out that if your intelligence and your actual enforcements are doing good is that you'll see fewer gang members hanging out, less graffiti, decreases in crime, and you'll get in IRL, you'll get feedback from, normal citizens living in the area. Those are really good indicators that you're making a difference. Like I said, gang suppression is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So, big thing, be qualitative, not quantitative. There are a lot of things. I can't say a whole lot because a lot of stuff is classified. I can tell you right now, I can tell you a couple things, at least for you guys. So, the Bureau of Justice Assistance was part of the basically UDJ, United States Department of Justice, which is like FBI, all those other fun agencies, the alphabet boys. They put out guidelines, and the guidelines are for establishing, operating, gang intelligence units and task force. And yes, those are two different things. These things are shared stuff. So, like, U.S. Department of Justice has I can't remember the exact. I think it's global justice sharing initiative or sharing something, but they call it global. And what global is that it's national and international, but mostly national, and it's for all sorts of agencies, every task force you can think of that does gang or violent crimes. Basically, it's an advisory committee, and they help disseminate information, make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what's happening here and there. One website you guys can actually go to right now is called the National Gang Center. And the National Gang Center, that's nationalgangcenter.gov. That is ran by the FBI. You can also go to the FBI and get the National Gang Report. The only gang report that I see here on the FBI's website, that's fbi.gov, is from 2015. I have the one from 2022. That one's classified as of this moment. What those do is they go through and they list everything: street gangs, motorcycle gangs, all that good stuff. And if you want to, you can go through it and you can actually look. It is very, it is very, 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 very meticulous. When you do your investigations, you do it. Everything you put down everything, kind of thing. Because any step we can take to minimize the violent crime is a good step, even if it's baby steps. I'd rather be doing something than nothing. Is how I lead my task force. Something's better than nothing. Because I also have to answer to the governor once a year. Well, once every 6 months, because that's when I do my brief for that stuff. But I have to show that something is happening, because it's a lot of money to run, a task force. 35 guys, 36 including me. That's a lot of money. So, but yeah, all this stuff gives you information and stuff like that. And you can look into this and you can kind of see how they do it and stuff like this. And that can help you kind of, what to look for, all that good stuff. So a gang, and so this is what a gang is, federally recognized as an organization, association, or group of 3 or more individuals. If you have 2 dudes say we're a gang, they're not. Federally, they're not recognized as a gang. I think Beach Bums has 3 people in it, if I'm not mistaken. That's a gang. Just barely, but it's a gang. So, like I said, ILP will help you guys out, with how to handle it. So one thing too, so we're not really going to deal with it a whole lot until court, stuff like that. We get more in depth on our citations, arrests, whatever. Basically call it reclassification, charge reclassification. So what that does is that a lot of times you won't know about it until after the initial report is filed. I could go in, and so can either gang task force, violent crimes, whatever. We can go in and reclassify it. We can see it and be like, oh yeah, heck, that's gang or whatever, and we can reclassify it as that. We don't have that ability right now in our current system in game. So let's see here. I don't know right now if I'm gonna make it multi-agency, if I want to try to do that, because state police and sheriff's office are just people. I'm sure they have their stuff put out for them. But yeah, otherwise than that, each department they have their own thing, their own, you'd have your own areas you do. You can also go up in the county, stuff like that. Big thing is that it's shared resources, shared intelligence. And it's also shared task force housing. Those are benefits to multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional, and that could be between federal, state, local, like county, city, and tribal. Tribal law enforcement in Minnesota, I deal with Mille Lacs Tribe of Ojibwe, Red Lake. So I deal with tribes in the tribal police a lot. Indian tribes, the tribes, the gangs on Native American gangs are a lot more violent than African American, Hispanic, specifically from like central Mexico. They're way more violent, way more violent. Whole different ball game. They are not. I mean, they will literally, and they did. The son of the police chief, Black Tribe Ojibwe, they chained him up behind a truck and drug him in front and back of the tribal headquarters on a truck, broad daylight, like noon. Tied him up behind a truck and dragged him around town. Um, he didn't live after that. Let's just point that out. Yeah, they're bad. One way to fight that is if you get disowned or exiled from a tribe, that's pretty much like a death sentence to a tribal member. So that's one looming thing above them. I can get a lot of them to stop. We don't have to worry about the prosecutorial side of this, so I won't get into that. But basically, one quick way to get people is under RICO or the CCE. The well, RICO, CCE, and Hobbs. So RICO is basically a racketeer, influenced, and corrupt organizations act. CCE is continuing criminal enterprise, and Hobbs is just Hobbs, for lack of better terms. So I'm trying to think of stuff that would pertain to in-game. I could literally just go on for days about for IRL. So, big thing is just investigation. What you see is keep note of it. Any information better than no information. Any actions better than no action. Um, Obviously, don't put yourself in a position where you can't get out of. Biggest thing is go home, live the next day. Don't like go running into a situation and get yourself cornered, shot, or captured. If you do get captured, pretty much I'd prefer if you were to get shot instead of sharing information about what you're doing. If it comes down to it, because that could, basically, it could affect many lives, stuff like that. IRL too. If you say something, that can get a person killed or a few people killed. We had a guy that confidential informant that got captured, found out, and he snitched on a raid that was going to happen, and it was a good thing that we had phone lines bugged because we heard of that, and then we were able to um, counter their ambush. So, speed bombing. Anything you guys want to add, or?
No, I mean, I know all this stuff is really dry and probably kind of difficult to listen to and pay attention to, but this is the important stuff. This is what's going to give you a foundation to be able to do what you guys need to do. Make sure we have good investigations and we get to go have fun.
Can we talk about when VCU's doing stuff, no uniform guys to fuck with them when they're doing stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty much just if you're on his VCU, or let's say you're not on his VCU at the time, in your uniform, and you know that VCU is operating in the area, don't go into that area. Just unless you're called to it, just don't wander in because you can fuck up some stuff pretty bad, especially if you're in a marked unit. You could really screw up investigations by doing that kind of stuff. But let's say somebody's out there, they're scoped out. IRL would be hours. I mean, 6, 7 hours, that's nothing. You know, for that in game, that'd be like 30, like 10, 15 minutes, maybe. Um, don't don't crap on investigations. Don't don't do that stuff. So, and the same thing with other agencies, stuff like that. Um, I'll get with the other high commands and we'll get a code, stuff like that. Basically that we can say, it's basically saying, hey, back off, don't come in this area, kind of thing. Hopefully that will keep uniformed officers from coming in and scaring off, a potential drug buy, guns buy, whatever. You don't want to do that.
Okay, mic check. 5 5. Vcu 1041
Anybody have questions?
Not really. You covered it.
I didn't cover everything. Trust me, we are
Well-
we are far.
You covered any of the questions I might have had.
Okay. There's still more stuff, like I said, case management, data collection, personnel, policies, procedures. One thing that you guys won't deal with is task force mission, model, participants, design, operational planning, not even like the critical incident response. Confidential informants, you guys can set them up, but make sure you get, if you haven't done it before, make sure you get somebody higher up, preferably like a high command of the department or the person in charge of that task force. VCU command, because we want to make sure that confidential informants are set up properly. Because confidential informants are one way that it can also be leaked out. Like I said earlier, they could get pinched and they could roll. So, we want to try to keep the possibility of stuff going sideways to a minimum. Sharing information. I would prefer if a deputy asked you for information on a gang. I would prefer if you just forward them to the VCU commander or one of the high command in NAPD. Because that way we know who was told what and when. I'll share information, but I'll share information in a certain way because we just can't be giving it out willy-nilly because that can also jeopardize investigations and stuff like that. So
Also, guys, before you guys try to make any like big decisions and stuff, like Watchfire said, like don't try to write up a warrant yourself and go serve it yourself. Always get that approved by whoever's leading up the VCU or high command on the department. There's something else I was gonna say, but I forget what I was gonna say.
Yeah, you can screw up some stuff. I mean, it's really easy to just piss away a lot of work. Really, really easy. Like let's say you put out a warrant, ISP stops the guy later, and then they arrest him on gang affiliation, whatever. Well, that right there, then they'll basically tip him off, saying, "Oh, they know about this, whatever." So we need to be careful about what steps we take.
And so I'll fill you guys in. You guys know about the big drug deal I did with the LS69 the other night. And the reason why we haven't served any warrants on that, obviously because it's drugs. There's a lot of them. But also, we want to get more. And Rusty had got some information from an informant saying that they might be dealing in stolen firearms as well. So sometimes it pays to let your investigations draw out instead of hitting them with the warrant right away. Because if we would have hit him with the warrant that night and picked him up for, dealing drugs, then he would have lost all interest and respect in trusting anybody new trying to come in and make deals with him. So this way now, we'll make another deal with him, get some more stuff, then try to work into, hey, I need some guns, I need some firepower. It's all a trickling effect, and you start small and you work your way up to the big stuff. And that's how we combat, trying to get these guys to chill out. Sorry, I'm talking all over the place because I'm freaking tired right now.
Also, I've been informed gangs do have rules they have to follow, so I don't think they can just do willy-nilly. They do have guidelines they have to follow. I don't know exactly what they are yet, but they do have them.
Yeah, and it probably wouldn't hurt. Maybe once a week, guys in VCU, you guys meet up, talk about what you found, talk about what you suspect, who might be involved. I know Rusty and we talk every time we patrol and gather intel. I'm not even in the VCU, but we gather intel on people who might be involved in the gangs and what they might be doing. So that way you guys stay informed and you know what's coming up.
Yeah, it's a pretty big thing. Our biggest thing is that we want to see, us, we want to see stuff happen. We also want to, our biggest thing is that to decrease the violent crimes committed. Um, shootings, stabbings, all that good stuff, including, the non-violent stuff, the drug dealing and stuff like that. Um, that's the main goal. Is that we can catch people all day, every day for drugs, but when it comes to like stolen police equipment, guns, and stuff like that, that's the stuff that we really want to get because those are the things that can cause the most damage.
Well, and a lot of drugs lead to violent stuff. Like Watchfire said earlier, we're not worried about the guy selling a blunt down the road. But once you get into the bigger trafficking stuff, and I know we don't have cartel in the game, but in real life, sometimes if you stop a cartel member and they got enough money or drugs in there and they have a chase car, there's been situations where that chase car will pull up with an AK and they'll hop out and they'll light your car up. So you just got to be mindful of stuff like that.
Texas. This last year, there was a sheriff's office. Can't remember exactly where, but so it was basically drug runner, chase car. What happened is that the sheriff's unit was alerted that there was a car driving erratic and all that kind of good stuff. They didn't even know that it was drugs at all. Like they just some car is erratic, driving real fast, in a deck on the road, on the highway. They go up behind it, light it up, and then they get into a chase. The chase car, comes up and pits the sheriff's unit. Basically, pits them, wrecks them out. The deputies thought that they'd blown a tire, but there was construction workers that said, "No, a car hit you guys." That's a big thing. situational awareness. Really freaking big. And when I heard about that, that kind of was like, I was like, holy crap. There's 2 deputies in the car, and neither one decided to look in their rearview mirror. I got so many qualms with that thing. You need to like the chase is not just about what's in front of you, it's about what's around you. Everything. Absolutely everything. You know? I don't need to say like, keep, act like there's always gonna be a car behind you that's gonna wreck you out. Keep your eyes out. Scan your surroundings. Obviously you wanna keep in the chase, you wanna be safe, and um keep your eyes on the person that you're chasing, but also every so often look in your mirrors. It doesn't hurt to look in your mirrors. It can also help you out too, because let's say you look in your mirrors once and there's units behind you, and you get going, and then you look behind you again, no units. Well, that can go into your decision process on if they stop, how am I going to go about this? Or, okay, am I going to try to pit them right now? No, because as far as you can't see any other units. So, it would be, especially if the car has more than one person in it, even if it's just one person and they're violent, you can still pit them and stuff like that. But the more units you have, the more likely it'll go over better. Yeah, sure, you might get shot, but it is what it is.
Just a flesh wound.
It's literally just a flesh wound. I've been stabbed 3 times, so I mean it's a flesh wound.
Well, it hurts for a minute.
It feels like your skin's getting torn. Let's just let that sink in. But yeah, so like I said, and I'll get with Rusty, your high command here in NAPD, and I'll get trainings thought up and put together for you guys. These are going to be separate from department trainings. These are going to be more in depth and based on VCU. Obviously, being in VCU has a lot more responsibility than just being a patrol officer. If you're, say this right now, if you don't want to do all this stuff, have to do the trainings, have to do all this stuff, you can go back to normal patrol. It is what it is, kind of thing. If you don't want to do it, go back. You can go back to normal patrol. Because personally, the way I see it, being Rusty, Bombing can say otherwise, but the way I see it as a 01, I want to have a robust, investigative body. Obviously we have, me, Speed, and Bombing as detectives. I want to get other detectives. I want to get people in that role. I want to be able to fill out positions in the department. I want to have something that we can actually rely on and not just have to have, 3 people. So it also comes with, obviously, you do really good. It looks good on promotions as well. I'll throw that out. I want to move people up into supervisory roles, but biggest thing is I don't give promotions based on time in department. I give promotions based on, are you actually earning that next role? Because I'm not going to put somebody that doesn't want to be in the department as a sergeant in charge of people. It's not going to happen. I want to put somebody there that's going to do something. Same thing with VCU. I want people here that are going to do something. That are just going to strive to do better, and that actually want to do it, because this adds RP to the game. Instead of just us showing up, shooting at them, getting shot back, blah blah blah, getting done and just leaving. actually doing the chase. And trust me, when you go and you chase people down for a while and IRL, I mean, we did an investigation on a group of people for 11 months, about 10, 11 months. And when we finally got them, it was the most rewarding thing ever. I mean, we got them with a shit ton of coke and a lot of guns. And I mean a lot of guns. So it, and I will say this right now too, it can be boring at times, but you know, everything's boring at some time in life. So, but when you put that effort in and you actually get that arrest, you get to do that, you get to do those the jump out boy stuff. It is fun as hell. It makes it worth it. 100% makes it worth it. It is high pace, adrenaline dumping, fun shit. So, in game like IRL. So it's fun. You get that build up and you just get so antsy for it. So, um, so like I said, we'll do trainings. Either it'll be weekly or it'll be bi-weekly. But I at least want to see people meet and chat weekly, share information. What you seen, what you heard. Combine the information because the intelligence-led policing, ILP, you'll hear me say that a lot. The VCU, that is very important. Because that the intelligence will lead us to better policing. ILP. So, um, we want to put our resources to the spots that are actually going to need it. Like I said earlier, we're not going to waste resources on a guy selling a blunt or two, or some old guy driving in a Tahoe, real dickish, gets pulled over with 7 blunts. Like, that's not, Bauman knows what I'm talking about.
I have no
That's
idea who
not.
that douchebag is.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the kind of stuff that, yeah, okay, let's make note of that. But we're not going to go full bore on that. It's the people that are more organized and deal more drugs, and deal weapons, stuff like that. That's what we want to go after. Do the drug deals, get trusted. Big thing is to get trusted by them, and then they'll move you further in. I can't say too much on IRL stuff because, like I said, it's classified. So, I wouldn't have to kill you. I would just have to make you disappear. Uh, so now, if you're gonna be dead after the disappear part, I don't know. Everything. Pretty much. Um, there's a lot of bogs out in Minnesota that smell like rotting flesh, anyways. So it's not gonna make a difference. um,
Just
yeah,
kidding.
you can. Yeah,
Can I
so
touch on some points real quick?
you can touch on some things.
Oh God. Anywho, if you guys are out running unmarked cars, or civilian cars, let's just say unmarked cars without a uniform, you are not to make a traffic stop on a vehicle. I know this
God, no.
hasn't happened yet, but I'm just making you guys clear. No. If you need and absolutely need to stop that vehicle and make contact with them, and you have a traffic violation on them, call for a marked unit. Let the marked unit stop them, then you can make contact. But do not stop a vehicle out of uniform, not in a patrol car.
To be clear, cops in Indiana have been arrested for doing that. In the state of Indiana, it is state law that you must be in a fully marked vehicle or in an unmarked vehicle, or I shouldn't say that, a non-plainly or non-clearly marked vehicle in full uniform with a badge of authority. In both cases, you have to be in a marked vehicle, clearly marked vehicle with a badge of authority. So you can be in a t-shirt and jeans with a gun and a badge, and that's fine. Or an unmarked vehicle in full uniform, still with a badge of authority.
And it has to be a recognizable uniform or vehicle. You can't just be Joe Smo with a fake cop car wearing a freaking FBI shirt and state police pants and say I'm a cop in uniform. It has to be a recognizable uniform or police car.
So that means if you're in your VCU outfit with a t-shirt, pair of BDUs, and a gun and a badge on, that is not a recognizable police uniform. So even though you've got something on you that says police, that still does not mean that you can make a traffic stop.
Yeah. You don't want to be in that situation if that happens. Also, there was another thing I want to talk about, but my brain is not working tonight. Oh, if you guys are out on patrol, you're not working VCU. Obviously, you're still VCU members, but you're not working VCU, you're working patrol. You come in contact with a gang member, like I said, ID them and all that stuff. But use your verbal judo. Talk to them. Act like you're friends. Act like you're best friends. A lot of times when you establish a rapport with them and they think you're cool and stuff, they'll rat out other gang members. They'll give you intel on them. Or they might even tell you something about their gang and they don't even realize they're telling you. So use your verbal judo. Talk to them. See what you can get out of them. But don't go up and be like, I know you're established LS69. Where are you selling drugs and guns? No, don't do that. Just be like, hey man, what's up? What are you doing in this area? Just establish a rapport with them and talk to them. And next time you deal with them, they're going to be a little more lax with you, and you can talk to them more and all that stuff.
But like, touch on what Bauman said. There are people in the Green Gang that when I deal with them, they will just tell me stuff about their competitors. They'll just give me information. They'll be like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And I'll say, "Oh, really? Okay, yeah, that's interesting." Because of that report. Because I don't just bust people immediately. So I give people chances and stuff like that, and that goes a long way. It also goes a long way too. That stuff ever does hit the fan, there are cops IRL that got rapport with gang members that pretty much the gang said, "Do not touch this guy." You know, he is off limits. Do not touch him. Because of the rapport and stuff like that you build with them. Same thing with corrections officers. When you're liked by a gang and stuff like that, it's not just because you're giving them shit. You're treating them like humans and stuff like that. There are times that a fight's broken out and this gang stood up for this correctional officer. There are videos about that. I'll find some. We can go over them at Cop Talk. There's so many things about a correctional officer having a heart attack and inmates that liked him that didn't want to see him die jump in to help him, and call for, assistance and stuff like that. That can go a long way. Not saying it's going to happen in game. It could possibly happen that, they're going to, after a bit, you can actually get that way with some people where they'll trust you, that you're not going to screw them over immediately. Obviously you have a job to do. Don't get that wrong. Your job is to go out there and to suppress gangs. Yeah, obviously, you're gonna probably have to arrest that person at some point in time. But you know what? When you do that, you say, "It's my job. I got a job to do. You did, you're doing your thing. I'm doing my thing." Um,
Even when you establish rapport with them when you go to arrest them, a lot of times they don't take it as hard and they don't like, oh, you're just doing this because of this or that. They're like, okay, my dude's arresting me. He's got a job to do. I screwed up. I'm not saying it happens every time, but a lot of times, when you establish that rapport, it does happen. And also, what's the main thing gangs function off of? Is respect. They're all about respect. You disrespect them, they're never going to respect you.
Back to treat people like human beings. Tulsa. Tulsa is very big about this, okay? So Sean Larkin, he was a sergeant with the Tulsa
Old
gang unit.
sticks.
Yeah, all sticks. So, funny thing is, I knew about him before Light PD, which is fucking great. So they have Tulsa does it really well. So does Austin, Texas. St. Paul does it pretty good. Duluth, they so with Tulsa specifically is they believed on the treating people like people. Don't treat them like monsters. Some people, there's an exception, but you get the most if people trust you. And with how like Sean was, still is, he could go up to people or just be around and people will just be like, hey dude, what's up, or whatever. He's out there doing community policing, getting, he is doing community policing. He is out there, doing public relations and stuff like that. But he's also collecting information at the same time, you know, um, and it enables him to get to know each person, or multiple people on a personal level. So if something does happen, he can say, "Hey, man, what's wrong? Like just tell me, whatever. He can get that connection, and because when two gangs fight, let's say one does a drive by on another, you know, there there's a bit of time when the information is the most critical. Who did it? Who did this? What were they driving? you know what happened? What started this? When you can go through, you can get that information, you can get faster response, because the worst thing you can do, and in Polk County, Florida, there was a drive by, one gang to another gang, but the thing was that the old gang member moved out of the house and some family from New York moved into it, I believe, and they shot up the house, and there was a young girl in her room, and the bullets went above her headboard. So she about got clapped on some gang beef of a previous person that lived in a house. So that's the stuff we don't have to worry about that in game, but that's the kind of stuff that we can help minimize. And the whole thing too is that if you get good rapport with somebody, there's a possibility, they'll stop doing the gang stuff. There is a possibility of it happening, and that also goes into the um basically what they called is basically membership impact. Um, and all this stuff is, like I said, in the National Gang Report on the FBI's website, 2015. You'll see it. It'll say like street gang, whatever, membership change. Do it over the past 2 years, because, like I said, it doesn't take days or weeks. It takes months to years to see stuff, to actually see changes. Yeah. like I said, we won't have to. So I'll just give some details about one gang, um, in Minnesota, North Dakota, called the Taliban and Young Thuggin Gang. Young and Thuggin Gang. Taliban and Young and Thuggin Gang. Or Young and Thuggin, but they're a gang, and basically this gang, they traffic. They've been around for a while. Um, Jesus, I mean they're still going, but not as much anymore. But basically, they distributed crack cocaine, powder cocaine, marijuana, liquid codeine, and numerous prescription drugs. They also um, they did a little bit of heroin, but they don't do it as much because, and it's kind of hard to believe, but some gangs do have ethics about them. And there's a lot of people in that gang that see heroin as dirty, bad. So, but I mean, we're not going to talk about the crack and shit like that. That that's bad too. No, you're wrong. Um, but they're ones. So they did a lot of. So they were mostly Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin Cities, and also out towards Fargo, stuff like that. So there's the stretch of like 70 I-74, or 74, something like that. That would get they would traffic along a lot. Um, obviously that we would hit those spots, but um, they had a lot of membership uh, decrease due to the ILP that happened, and that was basically in part of getting the rapport, getting the connection with the members, um, getting connection with family, people in the neighborhood, and um, basically just planting a seed of like a different way of doing stuff. And also another thing is too that um, that can happen is that with um, gang susceptible places, you can a lot of times in politics is a very big thing. I fucking hate politics, but to each their own. Um, you can actually get funding and specifically target that area and those people. So you can say, when they apply for food stamps, when they apply for housing, when they do whatever, you can earmark their name, where they live, and expedite their process, because the biggest motivator of crime, poverty. And if you could bring people out of that, the majority of the time, you can stop it. You know, because if they don't have to worry about, you know, feeding their family, putting food on the table, a lot of times they're not going to do it. There are some people that will still do it. But, there's more of a chance that they will stop doing it. Like I said, in game, we won't have to worry about that. But that's one way that could be decreased for the gang, stuff like that. You start at the roots. That's how you kill a tree, other stuff. You basically start at the roots. Tree gets it gets into it, and it kills it from the inside out. So there's an analogy for bombing that he'll like.
I just want to know where you find the ruts on a tree.
Yeah, I don't know what a root is, but I know what a root is.
Yeah. Well, it's real deep down in there. You can go for I mean, You can also hold these nuts.
Oh, you're
on
talking
this
about
maple.
the ruts that my machine makes when I cut the trees down. That's what he meant, Speed.
Y'all just don't
That
like
makes
my
more sense.
dialect. Jealous of it, aren't you now? But it could also help if you ever want to go, do this IRL. All right, so nobody has anything? Read anything to add? Questions?
Nope, not me.
Bombing? Okay. Joe? Okay. Screenshot?
So I have a question on the meaning of violent crimes unit. In document it says is to provide support to the government agencies of Indiana. And like I know, mostly police officers are the ones who do investigations or like they're the one who basically like um acts on criminal stuffs. So with the government agencies that is right here, can you break it down so I can know the types of agencies like they deal with, like they kind of help?
So, what you want to know, if I'm not mistaken on this question here, you want to know like what agencies would help, like IRL or in game, with investigations of um, with like gangs and violent crimes.
I think he more means which agencies are we helping?
Yeah, I know.
Um,
In game we don't really have like the stuff we really want, but like maybe in real life something like that, you can just connect that to it.
okay, so let's see here. Let's say where, gosh darn, I
Well, real
can,
quick
I'll,
before you go too deep into it, so the reason we wrote it that way, and Rusty, correct me if I'm wrong, because he wrote it, is to not limit you on what we can do and where we can get our information from. So if we get handed information from ISP, you guys can act on that. That's why we say just government agencies as a whole. Same with like if fire's on scene and they're like, hey, we put out the fire, but we found that it's probably a grow house and there's a lot of marijuana in there. You can act on that information because it's part of the SOPs and it's not limiting you to just NAPD. We're not just supporting NAPD. We can help everybody. Sorry, watch, continue.
yeah. So basically, um, IRL, let's say, for instance, Minneapolis, they have their violent crimes. They also have gang task force. So basically, what's going to happen is that they'll do investigations, and then they'll pass that along, and it's can't um let me filter some things out, because like I said, I can't tell you guys a lot of stuff. Because I can get some deep doo doo if I start saying stuff. Um, So pretty much they pass that along in a certain system, and that then that goes to every agency that has a need to know or possibility of having to deal with it. And that's up to uh, my task force or the BCA, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. So they have that is the statewide investigative body for Minnesota. Iowa is the Department of Criminal Investigations. I do not know what Indiana's is, or if they even have one. Speed bombing, please chime in if you guys
Okay,
have.
so if I'm not mistaken, like VCU is mainly like kind of like you acting as a FBI.
So
I really
the
I do understand everything, but then like you see the government agencies right here. I know the police officers are also government agencies, so and like they really mostly deal with those stuffs. That's
So,
why
so technically, screenshot. Police departments are government agencies, technically.
and so with the FBI, okay, everything gets to the FBI at some point in time. You know, everything because they're Federal Bureau of Investigations. And it also gets well, it goes to them, and it also goes to the U.S. Department of Justice. So anything everything's shared. So when one agency does something, they share it because, like I said, like I said earlier, when if you see something some way and you tell somebody else about it, and they say, "Oh, well, I seen this too," or "I seen it this way," or "Oh, yeah, that makes sense now that I seen this." So what happens is that everybody gets shared information. You don't, you're not um responsible to go to one agency, and that's you don't report to an agency. You
okay,
know,
yeah,
if you're NAPD IRL, you report to NAPD. Now, of course, if you're on a task force run by the state police, then anything NAPD does will go to the state police because that's a state police task force. And it's the same thing. I call it from the federal. I call it, drinking from the federal trough because pretty much is. Every department gets on that bandwagon, and it goes and starts drinking from the trough. Um, Especially when there's millions of dollars that can be given out. But pretty much, if you're on a multi-jurisdictional task force, the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, pretty much outlines what each department is committing to that task force. So, like, let's say NAPD, FCSO, and ISP are on a task force together. Um, all of us will say, okay, well, we can do this. This is what we can do. And then we'll do that. So we'll share information between all of us. We're not, beholden to ISP or FCSO. We're beholden to ourselves. And I'm hoping I'm getting your question answered here. But the only time you would actually, you know, be be held or have to report to a department is if, let's say, you're um, a federal task force that is, created by and led by FBI, DHS, um, Federal Protective Service, the PPS, um, you know, one of those. So that's the only time you would really have to you'd have to report to them is if somebody else makes that task force and you're a part of it. Otherwise, information just gets shared willy nilly. It's like bombing at a bar. Everybody just shares it.
yeah, got you.
All right. Felix, you got anything?
Nope.
All right. Guys, have any questions? said, you put them in the VCU general. You can message Rusty. You can message me. You can message Ballman, Speed. We'll be happy to answer. I'll get with high command here, and we'll get some stuff going. Some meeting times. You know, whether it's gonna be weekly, bi-weekly. I just want the trainings to be bi-weekly. And I like you guys to talk with each other, you know, share information, and just keep that information flow open and going. And yeah. So, any questions? If you guys have any questions anytime, message somebody. Don't be afraid. Um, we're here to help. Professional improvement is a big thing. I want to see people grow in the department and on your own, and as a person of your own. So, but yeah, that's it. If nobody else has anything, you're all good to go. If you're nothing else, you know, if you don't have any questions or wants, needs, whatever, y'all are good to go.
All right, have a good one.
Yep, you too. He's muted and deafened. I'm fucking tired.
Yeah, same. Right click on them and then go to roles. Probably not.
Great question.
I'm checking.
I'd love to just open up a line of dialect with I don't know. I have to talk with Smitty because I believe he's the O1 of Sheriff's Office now. For now, at least.
No, there's VCU operator. Just give him that one.
I'd love to kind of talk with Smitty because he sees everything for SCSL. I really want to see like what the other departments, what their stuff looks like, you know, because I highly fucking doubt that SCSO has anything in a line of detectives or anything like that.
So Smitty is working on detectives for FCSO. And
Okay.
he's reached out to me, I think he reached out yesterday, asking if we could assist with getting that set up.
All right. Well, we'll have to convene a meeting about that and discuss the futurability of that.
Sounds good.
It would be this shit. We do the meeting, we come back to me and say, yeah, we'll decline. Oh fuck. I mean, personally, I think I would return with here's our suggestion. Shut the fucking department down. It's useless.
Yeah, shut it down, expand our jurisdiction. Not much.
We're basically all of Los Santos County as it is.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I'm saying I don't know because there's only been very few gang activity with the yellow guys, so I don't know what to do with that, honestly. Well, from that, I'd say if they miss 2 meetings without any notice, I say kick them out. But if no, because if they send me a message say, "Hey, I got work," and me to fill them in on information, I'll do that. I'll consider that them technically being at the meeting. But if like they just don't show up for like 2 weeks and not tell me that they're gonna not be at the meeting, then I'm kicking them out.
Nobody messaged me.
He did not. Sorry.